Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Two Way Tonight. I'm Mark Halperin, and here's looking at you, kid. So this thing with Trump that's going on, we've said it before, flooding the zone, so much news every day, yada yada yada. Next level today. There've probably been days with this much news, but there's so much news, and we're waiting. He's not done making news because, as you can see, you're looking live at the East Room of the White House, where Prime Minister Modi and President Trump are supposed to come out. They're late. They'll probably come out during our program, and so we'll listen to a little bit at least of that. The president's already basically had a press conference today during the swearing in of Bobby Kennedy and during a second one during the executive order signing. But here's what's going on, and we have two great guests tonight to talk to about that. Mark Caputo and Batya Sargon are going to talk to us. What I see now is if you're like Batya and Mark and myself, you can't help but marvel. If you're in the news dodge, the news racket, the news game, you can't help but look at this and say, wow, a lot of news every day. And it's really interesting news. And if you're MAGA, or even if you're not super into politics, it's just compelling. The stuff that's happening is just interesting. And the presence of Musk makes it super interesting. But then there's the related storylines. One is we need to hold the administration accountable. And some of the things they've done, which I'll talk about in a minute, are really troubling. They're not just like, oh, don't violate norms. They're really troubling for our system. One of which I've been talking about since this storyline began, which is the main justice, the Justice Department of Washington, telling the U.S. attorney here in New York to drop the case against Mayor Adams. I'm going to talk about that. Today, also, for the third straight day, the Associated Press White House team was locked from covering an event. Escalated today. They've been kept out of the pool. And as the White House press secretary said, there's no God-given right to be in the pool or to cover the president in the Oval Office. Today, the Associated Press says their reporter was barred from the event you're looking at. I don't know the last time the Associated Press didn't have a reporter at a White House press conference. Not in any of our lifetimes, I can tell you that. Now, you could say, who cares? There's plenty of reporters there. But that one's troubling. But super troubling is the thing with the U.S. attorney, which we'll talk about in a minute. So on the one hand, fire hose of news, some things that are very popular and not negative on the face, but some really troubling things. And of course, what the administration's counting on is their base and others to either support them or not care, and to be distracted by the fire hose of news. So let me just run through some stuff that's occurred today, and we'll keep watching the press conference to see when it starts. And Mark and Batya will come talk to us as well. But let me just run through some things. As I said, in New York, the acting U.S. attorney, Danielle Sassoon, not a flaming liberal, a member of the Federalist Society, a former Supreme Court clerk for, I think, Justice Scalia. She
Yep.
quit. She quit because she said, I'm not going to do what the Justice Department said and drop the prosecution of Mayor Adams. Then two of her colleagues in Washington quit. The top official in the criminal division, again, not a Trump appointee, although she's a Trump appointee. She was made the temporary U.S. attorney by Donald Trump. She quit. The top of the criminal division quit, and the head of the public integrity section quit. And then the Justice Department official, Donald Trump's former lawyer, not only wrote a scathing 8-page letter saying, how dare you quit and how dare you not follow orders, he announced that she was going to be investigated for failing to carry out the order. I consider, as I've said on this platform previously, that letter that he wrote a few days ago, ordering them to drop the prosecution and saying, we want to drop the prosecution with prejudice, but nonetheless, we want to drop the prosecution because Mayor Adams needs to focus on fighting illegal immigrants, and he can't defend himself and do that. That letter, in its bald mixing of politics and prosecutorial discretion, is unlike anything I have ever seen. And if you are not troubled by that, I'm not saying you have to declare a constitutional crisis or say Donald Trump has to be impeached, but if you're not troubled by that letter, you're not paying attention. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And now it's been escalated by the resignation of these officials and the chilling effect that if you're told if you investigate the president, or if you refuse to carry out the orders that you think are not proper, you'll be investigated. Here comes the president and the prime minister. We're going to dip into this a little bit. Let's listen to their opening statements a bit. We'll come back. There's plenty more news to talk about, but let's listen to this for a bit.
Great honor. I'm thrilled to welcome the Prime Minister of India, my friend, Narendra Modi, back to the White House. We spent a lot of time here and a lot of time in India, and he's a very special man. Prime Minister, it is a pleasure to extend to you the same hospitality that you showed Melania and myself when we traveled to your beautiful country 5 years ago. It's hard to believe, so long ago, and it seemed like yesterday. It was beautiful. We opened the cricket stadium, 129,000 seats, I think the largest stadium in the world, and it was an incredible period of time. There is truly a special bond between the United States and India, the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy, and I believe the world's largest country in terms of the numbers of people. Today, the Prime Minister and I are announcing a framework to strengthen those ties even further economically, and the U.S.-India Compact for the 21st century is a historic initiative that will deepen every aspect of our partnership and our friendship. Starting this year, we'll be increasing military sales to India by many billions of dollars. We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters. In 2017, my administration revived and reinvigorated the Quad security partnership. And our meeting today, the Prime Minister and I reaffirmed that strong cooperation among the United States, India, Australia, and Japan. And it's crucial, really, to maintaining peace and prosperity, tranquility, even in the Indo-Pacific. In addition, the United States and India will be working together like never before to confront the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, a threat all over the world, actually. Today, I'm pleased to announce that my administration has approved the extradition of one of the plotters and one of the very evil people.
Okay, let's come out of this. And, we'll monitor it. Noah and my other colleagues will monitor, and we'll come back when there's news. So anyway, let me keep running through what happened today. Talked about the Justice Department situation. Again, a massive story. Talked about the AP. President signed a memo today not imposing reciprocal tariffs on all the other countries, but directing the federal agencies to investigate and study the impact of such things. He basically kicks the can down the road till April. So even though it was said he was about to impose reciprocal tariffs, he didn't do it. Doge, the Wall Street Journal reports, has showed up at the IRS, and that'll be intriguing. There's certainly money to be saved at the IRS, but there's also private taxpayer records. Let's see what happens there. Pete Hegseth refined his remarks. He had suggested yesterday that there was no situation under which NATO would accept Ukraine as part of winding down the war. He said today, it's not my decision, it's the president's decision to not take anything off the table. Okay. So that's a little bit of a clarification. RFK Jr. was confirmed by the Senate today and sworn in by the president at the White House. That happened too. That's an incredible story. The guy not that long ago was running for president as a Democrat, kicked out of basically forced out of the Democratic Party because of the heavy-handed tactics of the Democrats to keep him off the ballot, not allowing an open process, causes him to run as an independent. Then he endorses Donald Trump. People said he could never be picked by Trump to head HHS. Trump picked him. People said he could never be confirmed by the Senate. The Senate confirmed him. And now, even in the history of the Kennedys, at least this generation, incredible story as he takes over this massive agency department, and we'll see what happens there. Again, Donald Trump had a number of instances today where he talked before this press conference, and Linda McMahon's hearing to be head of the education department took place. Trump is firing thousands of federal workers, and Doge is over at the Department of Education as well. There's a million other stories. We're not going to go through them all. So we'll keep monitoring the press conference. I want to bring in Mark Halperin, and Mark, of course, now works for Axios, and Mark's bosses at Axios are constantly. I get a lot of emails from Axios. So yeah, come to this event, watch this online thing, and they basically say, if we have Mark Caputo, we have the top Trump reporter in the world on our team now. So Mark, welcome in. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for setting me up for failure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Batya is known as the Nancy Drew of American journalism. So that's a little inside joke. Welcome. Thank you both for making time. Let's talk about this Justice Department thing. Again, there's a thousand stories today, but I'm highlighting this one because I don't want to be fail to be holding them accountable for things. So, Mark, you and I were communicating before. I agree with you. There's a million things this week: getting the guy out of Russia, a million other things. Maybe moving along the reconciliation package. Lots going well by their standards. But how do you see, on the merits and as a news story, this Justice Department, these resignations of 3 top officials?
Huge news story. I mean, I need to read the letters carefully, both to and from Beauvais, but it's just hard to see a justification for this legally outside of him expressly wanting to engage in certain political considerations. Now, you could say they're policy considerations. I think he basically says, hey, we need Mayor Adams to cooperate on immigration enforcement, so we got to go easy on him. Like, I've never heard of anything like that before.
There's never been anything like it. And Mark, I asked you this question because you're, I would say, like your bosses would say, uniquely qualified to answer, but you're well qualified to answer. Do they not care about the appearance at all? Do they think there'll be any backlash? Like, I was wrong. I thought they'd back off on the AP, and instead they doubled down. They're barring the AP more, and they're standing up to their decision. Do they think? Is this for them a risk? Do you think?
Well, notably, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is suddenly taking a trip overseas. Now, I can't figure out whether or not that was pre-planned, but Bondi's kind of not in the United States currently. So, knowing her and knowing that she's kind of conflict averse about these sorts of things, and this is a guess, I'm pretty sure that Bondi is not a big fan of this. The Trump posture is, this is kind of not our problem. This happened. The president didn't direct it. And look, scoreboard, we're winning.
Yeah. Batya, how do you see this as it's obviously a big story? The New York Press, the New York Times has like 4 articles about it already.
Yeah.
Do you see this as a story, A, that the public might care about, and B, that the Trump people might need to be back down on? A and B.
I don't think this is the kind of thing that regular people who Trump is speaking to every moment of every day care about at all.
Yeah.
I don't like this, but I think from Trump's point of view, or from the administration's point of view, the prosecution of Mayor Adams, I think Adams convinced him, was because Mayor Adams was being nice to Trump. And so this is part of the fighting the weaponization of the justice system, even though to objective observers, it looks like more of the same. I think that's the logic probably that they're seeing it through. The Democrats already broke it. It's not now our responsibility to take the high ground, although I, of course, wish they would.
What do you think happens next in this story, Batya? What would you imagine will be the next beat?
I really couldn't tell you. I think that it will be very easy for the Trump people to portray these judges as part and parcel of this entrenched bureaucracy of elites that are in the pocket of the Democrats. I don't think that's accurate in this particular case, but certainly that is an accurate portrayal of much of the other obstruction that the Democrats are putting up to his wildly popular policies. So I really don't know how this is going to go. What do you think?
I think there's 3 things that could happen, and I was a little surprised, even with Donald Trump's strangleholds on things that just didn't happen with just the first letter. Because again, as we all agree, the first letter is just batty. I mean, there's nothing like it. For a letter from the Justice Department to the U.S. Attorney saying, drop the case because politics. One, I cannot believe there's no Republican member of the Senate who won't object and raise questions about this. 2, I wouldn't be surprised if more people quit the Justice Department, which could cause Donald Trump and Elon Musk to laugh and say, great, anyone who quit over this, we don't want. But at some point, you run out of prosecutors, and maybe not Donald Trump's people, but I don't know, maybe Pam Bondi comes back and she's told by people who judge when she trusts this is a problem. And then three, it's people not in the Justice Department, but in the White House. Again, you don't have to say I hate Donald Trump or I'm leaving MAGA. To look at the facts in this case and freak out and say this is just a massive error. This is putting politics directly into prosecutorial judgment. Mark, what do you think might happen next?
I don't know. I could see a graceful exit of Beauvais, but I think the more likely thing is this: is Donald Trump has racked up so many wins that his own press shop can't keep up with them. You know, you and I corresponded earlier because I posted this on social media. You know, I cover this stuff, and I didn't catch the video of the freed hostage or U.S. prisoner in Moscow, Mark Bogle. And the visuals of that and the speech this guy gave, wrapped in the American flag, standing next to Donald Trump, was like, holy shit. Like, that's like
incredible.
real news. And we've just glossed over it. So what I'm just saying is this
happened late at night.
Yeah, but this is just a thing of volume. They're producing so much content, so to speak, so much volume, and you look at the polling, you look at the executive orders. Yes, he's being delayed in the courts and he's fighting it, but he's getting caught trying, so to speak. That in the Trump White House view, it's all wins, and this is just going to get drowned out along with everything else. And I'm inclined to agree with them.
Yeah, and look, you can say whatever you want about if you think that Joe Biden and Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken were great diplomats. You can try to make that case. But what Donald Trump has done already, after being mocked, oh, he's not going to end the war in a day. Well, of course he's never going to end the war. But just look at what he's done in the Middle East and what he's done on Russia and Ukraine. No final result, but things are moving. And they were not moving under Joe Biden. They were not moving under Joe Biden in either of those conflicts. Just to reset for everybody, if you're watching here on the two-way platform, we'd love your questions. These are two of our finest guests. And I say that after saying it about last night's guests, because last night's guests were mighty fine too, Steve Almendorf and Matt Gorman, but two fine guests, the Nancy Drew of American journalism and the crown jewel in the Axios crown. Raise your hand if you're here on the two-way platform. I want to get a question. If you're watching on X or YouTube, you can try to raise an electronic hand, but I won't see it. But you can go to twoway.tv and sign up for our notifications. And if you do that, you will get every day a couple of emails that tell you how to sign on to the two-way platform and be able to ask questions of Batya Mark and other leading American figures who come on here to speak. We're also monitoring the ongoing press conference at the White House with Prime Minister Modi and Donald John Trump, and we'll take you to that live as news stories. All right, let's talk about this Associated Press thing. Again, you can say it's navel gazing. You can say no American is going to care which reporters get to go to which events. But Batya, what principle is at stake here, if any, that matters to you as a citizen and as a journalist?
You know, I was watching an earlier press conference, I guess the one on tariffs, and at some point, I'm pretty sure it was Caitlin Collins from CNN was trying to goad Trump into talking smack about McConnell. And she's sort of, pushing him. And well, what do you say about the fact that McConnell, said no to Tulsi and said no to RFK Jr. and blah, blah, blah. And then she says something about USAID that I miss. And then she said something about how he had polio. And Trump is just like, okay. And she was like, are you denying that he had polio? And it was such a 2016 moment, right? Like,
totally,
and it
totally.
just is falling so flat. Americans are so disgusted with the media, and so much of, what drove people into Trump's arms this time around was disgust with the elites who only care about themselves, this kind of narcissistic, this is my moment. What are you denying that he had polio? Like the most ridiculous, crazy, and I think that this is kind of more of the same. Like, I agree with you, Mark. It's not, would I have advised them to do this? No. But does it like rub me the wrong way in some existential way? I got to say it really doesn't.
Mark?
Rubs me the wrong way as a reporter. I'm not a fan of it. And it's just, I think it's emblematic of how powerful Trump and his White House feel.
Yeah.
Like they are able to not only troll the AP, but to come up with this sort of fake renaming, or I don't know what you would call it, of the Gulf of Mexico, and then just, just toy with them.
Yeah.
So the question I do have, sort of beyond this instant, is how this ends, and also at what point does political gravity start to take a toll? Maybe as inflation starts to rise, gravity weighs you down, inflation goes up. Who knows?
Or if they just can't get reconciliation through,
the debt ceiling, reconciliation, problems in the House. That's a question I do have, but just currently, this just shows this whole Gulf of America fight, so to speak, or whatever we want to call it, and all of this is like Donald Trump is in a position where he is unburdened by what has been, as someone said.
So this morning on the morning meeting, I said, upon reflection and additional data, I see the Democratic Party in a greater level of crisis than I had previously thought. I think they're in really bad shape, and something could change and bring them together. But just on the basics, I now think, and again, this is not cheering for Trump. It's not being a spokesperson. I look at what's happening now, and they're in a very strong position. Again, it could change, but as Mark has been the leading pointer adder of this, like a lot's going very right for them. They're feeling their oats in a way, and they're still. I continue to use the sports metaphor reluctantly because I only reluctantly use sports metaphor. This is open field running. The White House press corps, the Democrats, the interest groups. There's just the foreign leaders. Nobody is laying a hand on this guy right now. He is sprinting down the middle of the field between the hashtags and every question. All right, we're going to break format a little bit and go to you guys a little bit earlier than usual because we might have to go to the press conference. And I want to make sure we get a ton of folks in. So welcome in, as always. Tell people where you are, who you're wearing, and what's on your mind. And we start with Alex. Alex, welcome in.
Hi, thank you. I'm in Connecticut. And I wanted to comment on the Department of Justice and the Eric Adams stuff, and just to explain kind of how a normie, like especially as a mother, reacts to this. And at the end of 2021, in a deep blue state where our kids were still masked and vaccine mandates were coming down the line, the Department of Justice put out a memo that said parents speaking at Board of Ed meetings were domestic terrorists. And to see that come from our Justice Department attacking everyday Americans that were just trying to do right by our kids was so all-encompassing. Like, as a parent, you'll never know. So now when I see people, and forgive me, you might have, and Mark might have been banging your hands on the table about that memo, just as you are now about this one, and I'm sure you were. But as a person who saw that and reacted to it, it was the government coming against their own people and attacking their own people for something I think is absolutely outrageous. So now that Trump is playing that same card, but using it to go after, or not even to go after, to stop going after government officials to help clean up what an out of control, not democratic, what I would call party that were in our country for the last 4 years, to clean up the mess they made and use the same tactics that they used against us, but towards the government. It doesn't bother me because we have been living in this crazy world where the government was coming after everyday citizens all the time, that now that they're just going after or trying to relieve some of the barriers that are in the way, like it doesn't resonate to freak out about it. And it actually makes me angrier that more people weren't banging their tables harder about the Department of Justice coming after parents at a Board of Ed.
Alex, as I say often on this program, you speak for tens of millions. Thank you for saying that so eloquently. How many times have you voted for Donald Trump? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Unmute. One more time. There you go. How many times did you vote for Donald Trump?
Once. I voted for him this round.
And did you vote for Hillary Clinton in 16?
No. I voted for independent in 16.
Yeah. And 20, you voted for Biden?
No, I also voted independent.
Okay. Thank you. Mark, question for Alex, if you'd like to.
At what point did you decide I need to vote for Donald Trump and not vote independent?
There's a lot of reasons, but I would say the biggest reason was what was done to my children during the Biden years, regarding masks and vaccines and coming after parents, a lot of what was going on in the schools. And I basically wanted a return to the late 90s. I think the last
Who doesn't?
15 years
good
has
years.
been, and Trump to me seems like a return to the late 90s. I want inappropriate jokes. I want fun. I want
no email.
yeah. No, but
No iPhone.
yeah, I was a big BlackBerry person. Actually, I loved BlackBerry.
Yeah, like this, Alex, like this.
Or you could type notes and talk to people without looking at, like, you could look them in the eye and like type a whole story or an interview. It's great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When the BlackBerry was clearly going away, I was working at Bloomberg News, and I asked him to buy me 6 of them, so I'd have like a store, thinking I'd still be able to use them even though the system went down. Bacha, question for Alex.
I love what you said. I always say I think Donald Trump is kind of a New Deal Democrat more than he is a Republican. He just picked up that kind of normie platform on so many levels. I want to ask you something maybe a little bit extreme, but I wonder, it seems to me like, okay, and like just bear with me for a second, but do you think that maybe there was something similar in January 6th about that? Because to me, it seemed almost like with January 6th, you had all of these politicians at a time when American cities were experiencing a lot of crime and a lot of danger, and a lot of progressive and Democratic politicians were kind of on the side of the criminals. Then after January 6th, they sort of for 4 years demanded that Americans vote on the like 2 hours of their lives that they were ever facing. Actually didn't even turn out to be very dangerous because nobody was armed, but let's put that aside. Let's just accept that they were facing danger on that day. Like demanding that the Americans who they sentenced to a constant life of like danger and crime and not caring about them put their safety first and foremost. And I wonder if this is a very similar thing to what you're pointing out, which is like these elite politicians, it's like they impose on us a standard that then they consider utterly outrageous when it comes to them. And that's very alienating to normies. What do you think about my analogy?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think I will say, like, no one made me more MAGA. I'm full blown MAGA now. Like, I'm on the MAGA train. Like, I have a cat in my backyard on our snowman right now. Like, I am full blown MAGA now. And what I would say is, like, nothing pushed me more towards MAGA than the average center left person telling me that I couldn't use the same tools that the left would use because I had to be the moral person. I had to do the right thing. I had to. And so I feel like that are like, we're so over those arguments because we tried to play by the rules. We tried to do it the fair way. And all of these tools were used against us in a very aggressive way. And now that we're finally using them, we're finally finding the power to reclaim what we want to be ours. It's like, well, where's your moral standing? Where's your, why aren't you worrying about this? And I just, when you say January 6th and BLM, like the BLM summer, I had empathy for BLM. I understood people were outraged and angry. I don't think burning down buildings was the right thing to do, but I had empathy for it. And so I also didn't think posting a black box was going to change anything, so that annoyed me. But then on the January 6th stuff, it's like I had empathy for those people too. Like they were frustrated, they were angry. Like our whole country was angry for a long time, and I just I think we needed to give grace to both sides.
Alex, one last question. What's the thing you like least about what Donald Trump's done since he took power back?
That's a good question. What I like least about, I mean, I guess the Gulf of America thing, because it's just so stupid. Like it's just it's like dumb. Like as a MAGA head now, I'm like, yeah, it's Gulf of America, go. But also I'm like, but this is a dumb battle. Like why are we fighting this?
I agree with you, but I just gotta say, it's like, just, I know people like to say Donald Trump is not playing 3D chess, and I don't think he is, but he has this remarkable ability to move the pieces on the board in such a way that that the press has a tendency to checkmate itself. And you're seeing it now. So the Associated Press, there's a statement that's just been moved, was denied access, which I think is wrong, to the White House to hear the Modi press conference.
Yeah.
And everyone is now saying that this is like a First Amendment case. It's not. It's a dumb pissing match. Again, don't agree with it. But by suddenly saying, "Oh my God," like the media is having its rights taken away because the Associated Press isn't allowed to be in the pool for coverage. That's not really in the First Amendment.
This is not the pool, Mark. This is taking a credited, respected news organization that services lots of local organizations and saying you can't cover an open press event.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I can watch on Right Side Broadcasting everything that's being said there. And me as an Axios employee, I don't have the same access rights to all of these things. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Axios is the same as AP. Again, I think AP is being treated wrong. But to the point of Alex here is that the way in which normies perceive the way we talk about things sometimes is contrary to our own interests.
Alex, when you order delivery, do you use Seamless or Uber Eats? What do you use?
I cook. I'm an Italian American. We don't order.
You never order in?
No.
You don't even have those apps on your. You don't have the apps on your phone.
I have 0 apps on my phone. 0.
Wow,
that's crazy. Well, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to go on Seamless and see if I can order freedom fries and see what happens. See what happens. Alex, thank you for joining. You speak for millions.
Thanks,
Very
Alex.
grateful to you.
Thank you.
Come back regularly. Have a good night. All right. A lot of questions at the press conference are from Indian reporters asking questions about Indian stuff. I'm not diminishing the importance of that, but
they don't have the opportunity to talk to Modi the way the American press has the opportunity to talk to Trump.
Exactly. All right. Welcome in, Abraham. Thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, who you're wearing, and what's on your mind.
Well, I'm just wearing. Sorry.
Can
you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. No. I've been a long time listener. First time on Zoom.
We welcome you in, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I'm from Canada, by the way. I just had a few questions. It's just that with Donald Trump being being the president, I was just wondering, what's the biggest hurdle he will have in terms of just the first big stop in terms of something that will prevent him from doing stuff, except for the judges and stuff, in terms of Congress, or in terms of just a budget being passed and stuff like that.
Yeah, great question. Bacha, where do you think the first chink will come?
I'm going to defer this to you guys because you're more in the weeds on the congressional stuff. It'll probably be the bills, right? I mean, if he can't get those passed.
Let's go to the Axios crown jewel himself, Mark.
I don't know. I mean, I can see him not really having that much of a problem until he loses the House or the Senate, and that might not happen either. So there's also just a possibility that his biggest impediment might be himself. Yes, it's going to be noisy in the House as they debate and decide the spending bills, the continuing resolution, and the like. There is a reality that at least economists tell us that if the tariffs are passed, those could force inflationary pressures. He does have a tendency to be chaotic. That can spook markets, that can hurt the economy in that regard. So inflation could also be a serious problem for him. But one of the things that I've always tried to do, and I try to do more of, is not to predict the future, especially with this guy.
Yes. Okay. Give another quick question, Abraham.
Yeah, just one quick one. I guess it's quick, but with the international stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I know Trump is going hard on in all fronts of in terms of foreign with trade and tariffs and trying to make deals in the Middle East and with Russia and Ukraine. But which country would be the biggest stop to him in terms of I could see China being not playing with him in terms of the way he deals with things, because, or even the Middle East, because it's not it's a different type of way of dealing with Trump. So which leader do you guys think would be the biggest thorn on his side, I guess?
I think Xi Jinping in China. I mean, if we're hearing the body language and some of the whisperings and the predictions of those who know Trump's thinking correctly, the Trump position likely will be to tell Zelensky in Ukraine, hey, accept the fact that Russia is going to continue to own the Russian ethnic enclaves of eastern Ukraine and Crimea? And if so, the question is what message does that send to Xi Jinping and China? Again, this is an if based on what people think, but China wants Taiwan. What message does that send Xi Jinping about whether a giant country can swallow up another one based on certain territorial claims? That could pose a significant issue for Donald Trump, the world, and it's just unclear how we deal with that.
Watcha, I posited on the morning meeting this morning, as you know, because you never miss an episode,
True.
that Donald Trump is less under BB's thumb than any president in a long time. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I will say, I'm not going to pick a leader, but what I will say is, as an American, after being laughed at, Trump was so mocked and endlessly booed by all of these leaders and all of these, Davos, elites and so forth. To see the same people who laughed at him come begging for favors on their knees is so unbelievably gratifying as an American. And what I can't get over is that there's an entire political party devoted to opposing this. Like the Democrats are cucked is what they are. Like, they preferred it when these foreign leaders were laughing at us because they were making fun of Trump. And to see these Democrats out there braying and weeping on behalf of these recipients of USAID in ways that they have never brayed and wept on behalf of the American people, like, they are telling on themselves. And they are, I think, Mark, you're spot on. They are just, everything Trump does, they dig the hole deeper and deeper and deeper.
Abraham, do they say cocked in Canada, or is that just a U.S. thing?
I know it's they say it here too.
It's global.
So
Okay.
It's universal.
It's a North American thing, I guess.
Or it's as old as time itself. Thank you for joining, sir. Please come back regularly.
No.
All right. So the press conference is so boring, whatever, that Fox News cut away from it. The president's saying, again, as he said earlier, that both Zelensky and Putin want a deal. So we'll continue to monitor it. But Batya and Mark are making more news here, particularly when Batya said cocked than the president. All right. Welcome in, Megan Michelle. We have a predisposition towards people with alliterative names that begin with M. What with the joining of the two-way platform of Meghan McCain and Michael Moynihan with Megan's show.
God.
Don't forget.
Yes.
Don't forget, Megan's show debuts less than 1 week. Next Wednesday night, 5 p.m. Eastern time, Megan's show. Happy Hour with Meghan McCain debuts. So Megan Michelle, welcome in. Mickey Mantle, by the way, will be joining us in the next hour. Megan, tell folks who made the hat, where you are, and what's on your mind, please.
I think this is Minnetonka. Like, it's an actual real leather hat, and I love it.
Very nice. Very nice. Very, very sharp.
Thank you so much.
And where are you calling us from today?
I'm the Arizona Outback is where I'm calling. It's nice and warm out here.
Yeah. And what's on your mind?
Okay, so Batya, I have another sort of framing that I want to throw by you, since you're like the queen of narratives. Okay. As an American, I'm just speaking for myself. I think the media and the elites, they're starting to come around to Trump, and they're like, wow, this guy might actually be smart. Whoa. They don't understand. We, the American people, chose him. We centrally casted him because we are smart. We have agency, and we're pretty brilliant if you just let us do our thing, if you leave us the hell alone. And so I wanted to elect a sort of reality person in chief, because I have zero respect for these people. Mark, you're constantly like braying over the AP and these poor, victims of the Justice Department. Now, I have no respect for them. Zero. Negative. I'm like in the negative hundreds of respect.
I have respect for you by saying braying. I just like that verb. Braying.
Yeah. I'm like the character in Peter Pan who becomes a donkey. Megan, I see here. I don't judge the morality or appropriateness of Trump administration activities based on how outrageous anything previous administrations did. That's not my job. My job is to judge them on the merits. So I understand tens of millions of you say, because Tony Blinken, Trump can do no wrong. I get that.
No,
but
no, no. What
that's
I'm
not my
trying to say,
job.
I'm saying there's been a cultural shift, and by us, the people, and he was the first
Yeah.
person to say, "Whoa, okay, this is a thing," and then he capitalized on that, and I'm totally fine with it. The thing is, though, like the way I view Washington D.C. and all of these elites is they're literally people in a reality show, drunkenly, like in the background, having these crazy lives with our money, doing gross things. Like I have more respect for people actually on reality shows than anyone in Washington D.C. Like that, that's not a lie or an
Okay. All right.
exaggeration.
What's Trump done in the last 3 weeks that you dislike the most?
Oh, Mark. Um, what has he done in the last 3 weeks that I dislike? Oh my God. Okay, you know what I didn't like is when
Yeah.
he had the one Larry guy from some crazy company talk about AI and mRNA vaccine technology and like we're gonna give everyone mRNA vaccines from robots or something ridiculous, you know? And he propped someone up who was totally anti-RFK. And I was like, whoa, can we bring RFK into the conversation, dude? So when he starts to prop up other like prominent people who go against some of the MAGA values, like I'm not okay with that.
Okay. Guys, anyone want to ask Megan a question or just give her own show? Up to you.
She totally needs her own show. I worship you. I think you're the bomb. I didn't even like I'm always talking about the opposite, how when they hate Trump, they're hating the American people. It never even occurred to me what you just said, which is so freaking smart. Like they're always making fun of his vocabulary. Like, do you
Right.
understand that he is talking to people out of respect for them? Like he sounds normal. And I had the same thought today with Pete Hegseth. He showed up at this like, he was giving some conference to a whole bunch of like European journalists. You can hear their contempt for the working class in their voices and their accents. And he's there with his
Right.
hokey little, American flag pocket
Yes.
square and has these hokey sayings. And it's like, yes, this is us.
And
Donald
and
Trump is a
and and
perfect
and wearing a light colored suit as
and
compared to
wearing a
everybody else.
exactly.
And I
All
love
right.
Wait,
that
I
he
want to ask you
speaks
something,
into the
Megan.
passion.
Megan, what do you think of Elon Musk? Because to me, he's one of these people who really is at odds with the MAGA like values at their core. Like I think Steve Bannon really nailed him dead to rights. And what do you think of him? Does he rub you the wrong way?
No, he
You like
does
him?
not. I love his autism spectrum honesty. I love it. And you know what? If there are conflicts of interests, then we'll point them out. Trust me, MAGA's gonna be on it. Okay. We're not sitting here drinking Trump Musk Kool-Aid. We put them there. He
Right,
campaigned
right.
with him.
It's
We
genius.
wanted transparency. Do you think anyone but like a genius could figure out, and I'm talking about a business genius. I don't care what his coding skills look like. Anyone, we need someone in there who can look through miles and miles of data sets and figure out what the hell is going on. Okay. And he's a king of patterns. You solve problems with tools. He'll use the same tools he used in all the other business things to look at our government and figure out all of the BS. So I'm
All right,
totally
Megan, hold on, Megan, hold on. We gotta do it. This is like American Idol. We got to do an audition to get you your own show. Put up the Modi tweet about Elon. Put up the Modi tweet. All right, and I want Mark and then Megan and then Bacha to comment on this. No pressure, Megan. But if your
Okay.
analysis is better than Mark and Bacha, you win a car and your own show. All right, put that up full screen because it's hard to see. Pin that or whatever the right thing to call it. Yeah, Alex gets her own show too. Don't worry.
Yeah, Alex is awesome.
Oh, hold on. All right, pin. Here we go. All right. So Modi, the head of a government, like he is like a quarter of the world's population are his constituents, and he's tweeting now. Probably had some help. It was also a delight to meet Mr. Elon Musk's family and to talk about a wide range of subjects! Exclamation point. And then Bacha, narrate what's going on in these pictures. Is it story time for the
So
Modis? And the
you see Elon Musk with a bunch of children that he's had with women he's not married to. It's unclear if those are the mothers in the picture or if I think one is his girlfriend, but not the mother of the children. The other must be a nanny or some sort of help staff. And I'm purposely pointing this out. It's going to come back in my commentary. And they're sitting there with a delighted Modi as Elon Musk presents him with a piece of shrapnel that fell off of the rocket that he was able to re-land the starship that we all saw recently.
All right, Megan, what do you think of these pictures? What do they make? How do they make you feel, think?
Yeah, no, that's Lil X over there in the bottom right. The woman with him in the purple is Siobhan Zillis. She worked with him at the previous AI
Yeah,
company. And so they have twins together, and I've seen her
yeah,
and the twins. They're adorable with May.
yeah,
What's happening here is my point, Mark. They're making it like a reality show. And Americans
yeah,
said, I want to see what you're doing. I know it's
yeah.
not 100% the truth, but I need at least an image. And that's exactly what this is. So proves my
Megan,
point.
I may make you our Musk correspondent. Mark, you got a view of these photos?
Not a view of the photos, but as a journalist, I would certainly like to know more specifics about what was discussed, the capacity that Elon Musk is there as a representative of our government versus
Yeah,
a businessman who's looking for other business versus
yeah,
just kind of a guy who's just like, hey, this is kind of cool. I get to just chat up one of the presidents of the largest democracy on earth.
yeah.
It's odd.
Megan, thanks for coming. Come back soon, please.
Okay.
All right.
I just need to point out there's
Yeah.
definitely one thing they discussed, and it's the H-1B visas, which Elon Musk said this is literally the hill I'm going to die on, and is very anathema to the MAGA movement's view of
It's
immigration.
not just MAGA that doesn't like it. Not just MAGA that
Right.
doesn't like it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. All right. At the risk of braying, let me tell you a couple things. 7 o'clock tonight, Bobby Kennedy makes his debut as the first interview I know of since becoming the head of HHS, confirmed with Laura Ingraham on Fox. And then tomorrow on Fox and Friends, according to Maggie Haberman, Mayor Adams and Donald Trump's border czar will be doing a joint interview.
There we go.
To
So
do
that
it-
answers your question from before.
Yeah, it
Which
does.
which is actually, I think it's RFK Senior who said it. I could be wrong. Which is, if you have a problem, hang a lantern on it.
Yeah,
And so like they're like, oh, well, you know, fine. There's a controversy over us dropping the criminal charges over immigration. Great, let's talk about immigration.
yeah. If you've got your hand up and you don't like Donald Trump, you're basically a Democrat. Please raise your physical hands. If you don't like Donald Trump, raise your physical hand. David Bolt, are you raising your hand? You raising your hand? No, you're not. All right. Again, we've got this problem. I know there are Democrats on the platform.
Why is it a
Anybody?
problem?
Because we want a diversity of voices here. All right,
so
we're going
what?
back to you. We're going back to Hugo, because otherwise we got a bunch of MAGA people. And I'm not against MAGA people, but I'm for the diversity of viewpoints. So Hugo, a little dangerous to be operating a motor vehicle. Oh no, that's not Hugo. Sorry about that.
Well, there we go. Let's take him.
All right.
Take
No,
him.
Hugo. Sorry.
Whacked.
Hugo's not driving. Hugo, welcome in. Welcome in. What
Hi
do you think
again.
of? What do you think of everything? Just run the
Well,
table.
this is what I have to say. I just want to throw out the kind of caution to the delighted MAGA world that delighting in our misery is just going to come back, and the cycle of conflict is going to continue. And that's I felt bad last night about asking Matt a gotcha question. You know, well, what if DC was nonpartisan? Would Doge exist? And afterwards, I felt guilty because it sounded like I was being a snarky asshole Democrat. And now my hackles are kind of up, and I'm wondering why people are delighting in the chaos.
Can I ask
Because
you
they want
something?
Washington broken. They hate it.
Do you think that people are delighting in the misery of Democratic voters? Because I don't think that. I think that they are, well, when I feel the feelings I have about it, they're not really delight, they're more negative. But I'm thinking about the Democratic leadership that did this accomplished this utterly outrageous thing, which is they squandered the multiracial working class. Like, they managed to make Democratic voters who don't have a college degree feel so alienated that they voted for Trump. So I feel like it's not, the negativity is not about Democratic voters. It's about the elites and the leadership who seem really out of touch with Democratic voters. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's two-sided. That I'm just judging by social media. let me just a small anecdote. When Biden made the crack about MAGA back in the October, I was so outraged that I went out to the local MAGA gathering where they had their Trump signs up, and I wanted to say to them personally, I said, I don't think you're idiots. I just want you to know that as a Harris supporter, I don't think you're idiots. And I just want you to know that. And when I told my friends what I had done, they lost their minds. But now when I hear people delighting in Doge going in and wrecking everything, I feel that MAGA is saying, "Oh, you libtards are really getting it now." DEI and woke is coming crashing to a ground, and I wonder whether or not it's an attack on progressivism, or truly an attack on the bureaucracy.
But how come you take
I
that,
know
like, why do you feel implicated in that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess because I was so hardcore before, that I was so dug in that I never gave Trump or conservatism a thought. And now that I've come to two-way, I've broadened my perspective. I've got a subscription to the Dispatch, to the Free Press, and to the Wall Street Journal. I've got more perspectives.
Can I ask you just something quickly? Is there anything Trump could do? What could Trump do to make you feel like you are included in the people he's trying to help?
He could publicly tell the MAGA base to cut the bullshit. Stop with owning the libtards. If you really think if we're really going to rebuild this nation, people are the previous woman Megan was saying how we've the culture, it's a big culture shift. But as so many analysts have pointed out, it was a pretty small, it was a very small margin of victory. So
Hugo,
48% of the
Hugo, help me out, Hugo. I just scrolled through again. There are tons of Democrats on here. They just don't have their hands up. What would you say to encourage your Democratic brethren and sisters to raise their hand and participate more in the conversation?
I think I was just terrified that I was going to sound like a libtard, like an inarticulate, uninformed.
Yeah. Am I unwelcoming to you? Do you feel like I'm unwelcoming?
Oh God, no. Oh God, I tell every single day I post on my Facebook. This is the only social media I really use. That to join me on two-way every single day.
Yeah,
I'm trying like
and
hell
come to raise their hands,
get...
because they're joining, but they're not raising their hands. Raise them up. Well, raise them proud.
Maybe.
Thank you
for what we need. What we need is T-shirts. We need T-shirts.
Merch.
Yeah, Merch. We're working on T-shirts. We're working on. Hugo, thank you for joining. Come back regularly.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Thank you.
All right, Mark and Bacha. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow will be another massive news day. What are you looking for next from Trump-orama? Mark, where's your focus currently?
I mean, my focus is I would really like to know what Doge is really doing. And one of the problems with the reporting that we've had so far, which is understandable, if it bleeds, it leads, is most media concentrated in Washington it is understandably going to gravitate toward the stories provided by the employees of agencies who are like, oh my God, the barbarians are in here and they're wrecking everything. I understand that. Like, if those employees are coming to me, I would write those stories as well. They stand on their own. But at the same time, there's another part of the story of like, okay, well, what are the barbarians really doing? And it's not that clear. And so that is kind of my overarching interest. But so far, that's a difficult story to report.
Yep. Nancy Drew, aka Botcha, what story are you kind of looking at and kind of tease out?
I think Doge is kind of going to peter out because a lot of what they're finding, or a lot of what Elon Musk is making headlines reporting, is actually like there's a lot of misinformation. Dare I say that word? There was a very funny example of, he found some line item of millions of dollars paid to Reuters for something called like, I forget what the phrase was. It sounded a lot like misinformation. And he was like, look, we're literally paying Reuters to produce misinformation. And it turned out that it was a crisis management firm that Donald Trump had hired that was called like Reuters or something like that. There's a lot of stuff like that of just like him being so ADD and needing to be the center of attention and just making stuff up. So I have a feeling it's going to peter out. I'm very excited about the end of the war in Ukraine. 1 million young men have lost their lives, and it's going to finally end. And just Donald Trump reorganizing the world around this kind of strength through peace. I think we're about to enter a golden age, and I'm excited about the tariffs. I think he showed in 2019 that you can have significant tariffs and have very low inflation, and I'm hoping we can get back there.
Okay. Thank you both. Love having you both on.
Thank you, Mark.
Always.
Thank you,
Come
everybody,
back
for joining.
every night if you want. And very grateful to you. Great. Thank you, Batu. Thank you, Mark. Thanks to everybody who asked questions. And thanks to the Olive Tree Restaurant, the Olive Tree in the heart of central New York's Greenwich Village, high above the Comedy Cellar, the fabled internationally known comedy club. This restaurant is literally right above the Comedy Cellar. It's a great place and expect to see more of it. That's all I'll say for now. Thank you very much for joining. I'll see you with Sean and Dan tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time on the morning meeting. And then we'll close out the week, barring some special breaking news coverage tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Two Way Tonight. Thank you for joining. Have a good evening. Good night.